This is my 2001 Series 2 AU Falcon XR6, which I've owned for the past few months, and I daily drive it. At the beginning of March this year, when I first bought it, it was looking a little worse for wear. I bought it totaled from the previous owner who had owned it for 13 years. I daily drive this 4-litre single cam straight 6, and to be honest, it's a lot of fun, but it comes with its problems. Since buying this AU, I repaired all the damage, lowered it, spooled the diff, installed a full exhaust system which sounds amazing. And for the cherry on top, I also manual swapped it. I have owned my fair share of dailies, from VW Passat R36s, Golfs, Lancers, you name it, I probably had it. But this is probably one of my favorites, if not my favorite daily. With every daily, you want it to be a little bit nice. And my prerequisites for this car was that it had to have working aircon, heater, cruise control, and a decent sound system. And it happens to have all of those. But there are a few things that really bug me about this car, which I'm going to address in this video. These are a bit of a clue as to what's to come. So the first step of making an AU great again is installing a brand new headliner. And I pulled this one out at the Wreckers and it cost me 80 bucks. You want to do mods to your car or improvements to your car that are as cheap as possible, that give you the most amount of return. And this is definitely one of them. And I can't wait to get this in the car because this is what my headliner looks like currently. So let's chuck it in. Removing the headliner out of an AU is probably the easiest thing in the world, as it's only held in by the A, B, and C pillar trims and a few clips, as well as the window visors. Unfortunately, I screwed up when I got my new headliner because I didn't realize that my AU has these little lights in the back. They don't work anyway, so it's not like I'm missing out on much, but the new headliner does not have reliefs cut out for these, so I'm gonna have to ditch them, which is a shame. But, you know, at least I got this one. If I didn't have that one, then I'd be pretty upset. But it's pretty easy to take out the headliner. There's just a few screws, a couple clips. The hardest part about this whole job, I feel, is going to be getting the new one in without damaging it or getting it dirty. It'll be very worth it in the end, won't it?
You know what you should do?
What?
Put a Minecraft pattern headliner in there.
No, I was thinking that. After I removed those, it was as simple as folding the old headliner into a taco and sliding it out of the car. I actually cannot believe AUs, honestly. Actually, good news first. The headliner is coming together. I've just put this in, I put the passenger side visor in, and it is so much better in here. It feels a lot nicer having a nice headliner for once, instead of having staples holding it up. This being an XR6, you were able to option this with premium sound, which my car actually does have. As you can see, it's got the sub in the back, which doesn't work, but it also has tweeters. Why are they riveted in from factory? They're literally riveted in. Look. What is that for? Seriously. And a door lock actuator as well. I don't know if AUs are riveted in, but on my EF, they're riveted in. It's just unbelievable, honestly. Why? Why? On Ford Falcons, the rule of thumb is if it's not riveted in, it's Loctited in. Like everything is Loctited on a Ford. Crazy. Well, I'm gonna keep cracking on with this. Should be done very soon. Well guys, it's now the next day, and as you can see, look at the headliner. It makes such a big difference. There's no wrinkles anywhere. There's no staples, nothing. It's perfect. Now, the only complaint I have about this headliner is that I had to sacrifice those little lights in the corner and also the grab handles in the back, which is a little bit annoying. I've learned over the years that small little stuff like that doesn't really matter, especially when you're changing something so dramatic like this. I used to think everything had to be perfect. If it came from factory, it had to stay like that. You know, does it impede how the car drives? No, it doesn't. Unfortunately, we don't have grab handles and we don't have those little lights in the back, which never worked anyway. But now I have to make a trip to the Wreckers because I kind of screwed something up on this car, and when I get there, I'll show you guys. Unfortunately, it was so windy that I could have been speaking Minecraft enchantment table and you guys would have understood me better, but I was on the lookout for an AU sedan so I could take out the fuel feed line off the hanger, as I previously damaged the one on my car when I changed the fuel filter a couple of months ago. I also happened to bump into Turbo Tristan while I was there and he gave me a helping hand. Go check out this guy's channel, he does some crazy Honda builds. So now that we're back from the wreckers, I can show you guys what is going on with the fuel hat here. So this is a rubber line and this is the factory line because I screwed up the factory line and I had to replace it temporarily with the rubber line like I said before. What I have to do is I have to remove this rubber line, replace it with this one that we got at the wreckers with Tristan. And while we're there, change my fuel pump, and I got a brand new fuel pump here. That's a full assembly, fresh, brand newy. So this is just an OEM replacement. It's actually a Continental fuel pump. I've been having two problems with this car. Number one, sometimes when the fuel is low, it really struggles to start. I have to crank it 2 or 3 times for it to start up. It just cranks and cranks and cranks, and eventually it fires. Also, when you take a corner really quickly or chuck it into a drift, it fuel starves and cuts power, and that is definitely a symptom these AE Falcons have when it comes to dying fuel pumps. So I figured I may as well do everything at once. Replace that fuel line, replace the fuel pump. About to pull the fuel pump out. I wonder what it looks like because when I changed the fuel filter in this thing, it looked really crusty. Let's see, I got the drain pan here. Oh, it looks crusty. Come on, buddy. Lucky I filled this thing up like 2 days ago, not knowing that I was gonna film this video. All right, that's what it looks like. It's not horrible. It's a little crusty, but I've seen worse for sure. It's a genuine VDO fuel pump. So it's the original one that came with the car. 280,000 Ks, not bad at all. New one definitely looks a lot fresher. What's interesting about this fuel pump is that it is literally just an OEX like Repco fuel pump. The actual hanger itself is VDO brand and the fuel pump is Continental branded. I don't know if you can see that. Usually OEX is a pretty cheap brand, but the stuff in here looks pretty decent. So I'm keen to chuck this in. Hopefully it fixes my problems and we get more power, better fuel economy maybe. Who knows? Let's chuck it in. So with everything with cars, sometimes shit goes wrong. And the thing I was trying to avoid happened again. What I have over here is what's left of the clip that goes on the factory line that goes on this. It's meant to clip over this with this little shit here. As I was pushing it on, it didn't want to clip on. So I tried to mess around with it, see if it was stuck. This one, the one we got from the wreckers, is mint, but the factory one screwed up. So I tried to click it on and it didn't click on, ended up disintegrating.
What is the lesson in this?
Ford AE Falcon shit.
The lesson is replace shit with new shit and don't reuse old shit.
That would be good, but you can't buy that new anymore. So don't worry about him. Anyway, I need to pull out that return line now and replace it with a rubber hose. So let's do that. All right. So far, so good. It's driving very nicely. Sometimes at partial throttle, it would hesitate, almost as if it had like a fuel pressure issue, but so far, so good. I'm not seeing any problems. Also, another problem that I was having was my fuel gauge was completely drunk. You would park the car, say it had a half a tank, you would start it back up, you'd have a full tank, or maybe you'd have an eighth of a tank or a quarter tank. It was a lucky dip whenever you started the car up, but now it seems to be mint. I've driven it around a little bit. I drove it back from the shop and I drove it home. That's basically it. I didn't get on it at all. So far so good, but let's give it some gas. Pulls like a train. Pulls like a freaking train now. Way quicker than before. You see that second gear click? You gotta click it, mate. You gotta click it. Is it worth owning and daily driving an AU in 2025? At this point, these cars are getting a bit long in the tooth. This particular one is going to be 25 years old next year in March. Basically as old as I am. Let's talk about the good things first. So, obviously, it's very fun to drive. When they're stock, not so much. But when you modify them a little bit, especially if you have a manual one, you put a bit of an exhaust on it, lower it, they are very fun cars to drive. So if you have a very boring commute say you're just driving on a freeway or you're sitting in traffic, like, you know, the little bits here and there where you can step on it a bit, it is a fun car. It is definitely a fun car. They sound good when you put the right exhaust on them. The second thing, they're very comfortable, or rather they can be comfortable. When you don't put chop springs in them like I did have in this car in the past, put proper suspension in, you have you know, decent tires, you make sure your ball joints and your bushings are good, they can be quite comfortable, especially on long journeys, you know, driving on the freeway. That's when these cars really excel. Sitting at higher speeds for long periods of time, that is what the AU Falcon, or any Falcon or Commodore for that matter, was designed to do. They were not really designed to sit around town. And that brings me to my next point. The third thing is, you know, they have a bit of street cred nowadays. There's a bit more than a cult following for these cars. I've surprisingly, and this is no cap, you know, I've actually been complimented on this car before, many times, because this is an AU XR6, so it looks a little bit different to a normal AU Falcon. And the fact that it's red, it also stands out a bit. So I've had people come up to me when I've been refueling the car, asking me what it was, or saying, hey man, nice XR6, whatever. Like, I was genuinely surprised. I only usually get those sorts of comments like when I'm in my Silvia. Never in a million years did I expect to be complimented about owning an AU Falcon. So yeah, I guess, like, if you're just getting into cars and you want people to notice you, AU Falcon is the way to go, apparently. That brings me on to the bad things. This car, very thirsty. I've owned 2, 3, 4 6-cylinder dailies in my time. This is by far the thirstiest one. This and a BF Falcon that some of you may remember I used to own last year. It could partially be to my driving style. Now that it's manual and it's got an exhaust, I do tend to step on it a little bit. It is very thirsty. 16 liters per 100 kilometers is usually my average. I don't really spend a heap of time on the freeway. I don't have a full-time job anymore, so it is mainly just around town, running errands, going to the shop, stuff like that. And so driving around town, you really notice this thing is quite thirsty. But then again, saying this thing is thirsty is like going outside in the middle of the day and complaining that it's too bright. It's pretty obvious that a 4-liter straight 6 single overhead cam is going to be a thirsty vehicle. Number 2, they are quite old, and it being a Ford Falcon, or rather an Australian car, not built the best, and also they're quite rusty, some of them. This one is very rusty. There's a rust hole in the boot, there's a rust hole in the floor underneath the passenger seat, and there's a lot of rattles in the car, a lot of rattles. This thing isn't even on coilovers, it's not very stiff, but I don't know if you can hear it while I'm driving, but this thing is exceptionally rattly. And the third thing is they are a little bit red hot. This one especially, because it's literally red. Because AUs have gained so much popularity over the last five or so years, cops know about these cars. They definitely know what to look out for. So if you're in an AU and it's even slightly modified, you got to be pretty careful daily driving it, because cops will see an AU and they'll just assume that it's been modified, and they will pull you over and they will shaft. I deliberately made sure that the modifications on this car aren't red hot. They're nothing too crazy. This is my daily driver. I don't want to get in trouble with the police. So that's the main thing you need to consider with these cars, that cops know these cars now like they know Jap cars. But should you get an AU? 100%. If you have a couple of K laying around, they're still relatively cheap. Get one while you can and modify it.